Hi everyone, I'm Joanna.
And I'm Jenny.
And this is Hyphenated, the podcast about living in the hyphen. Jenny, here we are again on Zoom, even though I was in LA and then you were in LA and we overlapped for I think 27 hours and we weren't able to see each other.
I know, man. Que pena.
Que pena. Oh, so
we
I think
tried
that's the
so
definition
hard.
of pena. We really did. We tried. I mean, I will say, I feel like when people land in LA and it's not their fault, I think flakiness is it's just in the air. I've never canceled more on people than when I go to LA. I'm like, oh, I can't drive for an hour and a half to go see you. What are you kidding me? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I have a friend that's here from New York also, and like I'm so exhausted, but he's like, I'm staying in Santa Monica, which for me is like a death sentence. And I'm like, he's expecting me to stop by to see him. Today's the only day I can see him. I don't know how I'm going to do it, y'all.
Well, you know, when
Pray
this
for me.
episode comes out, we'll know if he's your friend still or not.
I'm like,
If he'll
can't you
take it
come
so
to the
personally.
valley? God damn it, man.
Well, you know, speaking of LA, a place that has a bunch of like cities and places and locations that have Spanish names pronounced in English. Look at this flawless transition into our theme for today.
Impressive.
Today we're talking about Anglicisms, which is like a fancy ass word for words that are borrowed from English to another language. And in our case, we've, been exposed to millions of English words we didn't know were English words in Spanish.
Nope.
Like the classic one is like viva porub. You know what I mean?
Yep, that's the best example for those who are wondering what the hell an Anglicism is.
Because I don't know when you found out that viva porub came from Vicks Vapor Rub, but I remember standing in front, like I was at a CVS and my mom's like, busca el viva porub. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to say that. I'm not going to ask this Bostonian woman at a CVS, like, where the Viva Porub, I don't know what the English version of Viva Porub is. And I look at Vicks Vapor Rub, and it's almost as if I see the letters merging from Vicks Vapor Rub to Viva Porub, like, slowly, while, like, haunted music just starts surging. And it's like this. I think that every bilingual person goes through this moment.
It's so funny because your story sounds like mine. It always starts at a CVS. Well, back then it was an Ekerdrog. It was through my dad though. My dad called it Viva Porru. He's like obsessed with that thing. And it's weird because here's the thing. You're talking about the Bostonian lady at the CVS, but for me it's like in Miami, everyone's saying shit the wrong way anyway.
Right.
So, like, it's the opposite. If a Anglo individual shows up to a CVS EMAS in the middle of Wachete, Miami, and asks for Vicks Vapor Rub, they'll look at you like, ¿qué?
Right.
Unless you say Viva Porru, then they'll be like, say it, Viva Porru, and they'll take you to the right place.
You lived in the one place where Viva Porub was the correct way of saying it. Like, in the dictionary in Miami, it's not Vicks, it's Viva Porub. Oh, my husband like makes fun of me for saying Viva Porub, and he's like, Viva Porub, and I'm like, the word is fucked anyway. Like, are you kidding me?
I know. I was saying shit wrong. So it's like, it's so embarrassing because when I went to the University of Miami, yes, it's in Miami, but like it's mostly like non-Latinos there studying with you, and so you have like all these like really smart white people from like, I don't know, Utah, whatever, and they have this crazy vocabulary, and I felt so just not the brightest because I would say shit wrong.
You shouldn't feel like you're not the brightest, because Anglicisms, which are it's basically a mix of words, is something that is specific to when cultures mix. Anglicism isn't just in English. Like, Spanish used to borrow a bunch of words, and it still borrows a bunch of words from Arabic, and it's now just become Spanish. Like, I don't know, when the Moors were in Spain and they needed a word for like shirt, they were like, oh, well, let's just steal it from the Arabic language and use blusa. And now blusa is our word, and that is the correct way of saying it in Spanish. So all the things that you say and we think are incorrect to say, like the Anglicisms, those words that actually come from English but are like double agent spies that are hidden in like Spanish accent, but actually like they take off their clothes and they're actually, oh my God, I don't know why I'm making a nudist joke about language, but they take off their clothes and they're actually in English, or like English spies in Spanish language. That is actually, those words are correct. Like so many of those words that we find out are originally English words are now in the dictionary.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Like brands are the easiest way of explaining this to someone that doesn't know what an Anglicism is, because it's like, oh, a brand made a word for their product. That product was exported to Latin America, let's say. And then the product's name just became the word for the thing, like Jeep. In Venezuela would be like sometimes on the radio, they'd be like, hay un Jeep que se robaron de estilo Mitsubishi.
What?
So it's like the Jeep is like a SUV for Venezuelans.
Yeah, for them it's like a Nintendo. And Nintendo, you know, I'm sure all the abuelas looked cool as hell back in the 90s when it was a Nintendo.
But now correct. PlayStations are el Nintendo, and
everything's a Nintendo.
Tamagotchis.
Every little electronic device is either it's a Nintendo. They just were like, you know what? I'm not gonna even bother learning the rest of these.
Why?
Names.
Why even bother? That's already a lot of consonants in one word. Nintendo, you know. And then like another one that I think is so funny that my grandma always used to say is like, "Ay, ¿qué cornflake quiere?" Like, what cornflake do you want?
Which brand of cornflakes?
But it's what she meant is like, which brand of cereal do you want? Like that word replaced the word for cereal, and conflake just means cereal.
I never heard my abuela utter the word cereal.
No, mi abuela tampoco. Conflake.
Oh my God, it's so freaking true. Even things that weren't actual cornflakes, like those sugary, nasty 90s diarrhea-inducing cereals from our youth.
Oh my God, I love that stuff.
Fucking Fruity Pebbles.
You know what? Which other brand I didn't know was a brand? I thought that was the word. I thought the word for tissue was Kleenex.
Oh yeah.
Again, it always happens at a CVS. I was at the CVS and I was like, Kleenex tissues? It's the brand. It's all the Viva. It's like Viva Peru all over again with Kleenex is what happened to me.
You know what's interesting though? A lot of Americans in general say that too for tissue.
That's true.
Like, oh, can you pass me a Kleenex? It's not even the brand Kleenex. It's like a knockoff dollar store brand. But they'll still call it Kleenex.
You're right.
With my abuela, it was, one of my favorite ones, because she was obsessed with this. You know, pads, like period pads. She would call them Koti. And, you know, it took me 1,000 years, because I've been alive for that long, because I'm a vampire, to realize Koti means Kotex, the brand Kotex.
Oh, wow.
But she'd be like, Koti, no te olvides a poner un Koti en tu maleta para la escuela in case I bled through and like it became a scene from The Shining. She was obsessed with me bringing pads to school.
But that one I understand more because like in Spanish, the term for pad is toalla sanitaria. Okay, sanitary towel.
That's gross. It sounds like I'm wearing a giant beach towel in my bloomers.
Pásame la toalla sanitaria. No, dude, pásame el Koti. That's like so much better.
Koti, fast. It still confuses men. They don't know what the fuck we're talking about. They think we're talking about a snack. Yeah. Like a granola bar. Hey, do you have a Koti?
Men are like, oh, I wonder what those women are eating. Ooh, Koti. It sounds cute and crunchy. And now it's time for our very first ad. Can you believe it, Jenny?
I've waited for this day, Joanna. De Viaje con los Derbez 2 is a comedy docuseries that follows one of the most beloved families in Latin entertainment.
The cast includes Eugenio Derbez's real-life star-studded family.
Together, the Derbezes learn how to survive in the wild on a crazy family trip.
Oh, God.
The second season of De Viaje con los Derbez is available on Pantaya in the US and Puerto Rico.
On Pantaya, you can enjoy hundreds of movies and shows in Spanish from the comfort of your home or anywhere else by streaming them on your cell phone. Like El Juego de las Llaves with Maite Perroni, that's gearing up for a second season.
So here is the exclusive limited offer.
Exclusive limited offer.
Enjoy Pantaya for just $1 a month for 3 months by visiting pantaya.com/pitaya and subscribing now. Remember, that's Pantaya with a Y.
So there's brands, right? But then there's the sort of world of sports, right?
Oh, God.
Okay, sports is like another world that is full of stolen English words. And I remember when I moved to Venezuela, I had been going to school in the States, right? So I learned how to write out the word baseball, 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 right? I'm in Spanish class in Venezuela, and I write baseball on an essay. And I get it back, and it's crossed out, and the teacher wrote Beisbol, baseball.
Classic.
And I'm like, dude, that is not how you spell baseball. It's base as in the bases and ball as in a ball. What you wrote here, Beisbol, that's not a word. And she's like, dude, that is the Spanish word for baseball. And I'm like, I do not believe you. And she took out a dictionary and she's like, it's fucking baseball. And I'm like,
Baseball.
Oh my God.
Ding.
The legitimate word is just baseball, but written out in Spanish.
What happened there, though? Because that's for so many other sports. Like, well, the one that confused the shit out of me was like soccer and football in American whatever sports. Yeah. And then, pero then in Latino culture, it's football, but that's soccer.
You know what other sport has a fucked up spelling? Like
what?
Basketball, as in basket, Basket, basket. Yes. Okay, in Spanish, it's called basquetbol, and it's spelled Basquetebol.
Oh, that's cute.
Etebol. Basquetbol.
Basquetbol.
Like,
pero coño, they didn't, like, so what happened? They just said, you know what, fuck it, let's just take from the English. We don't need to create our own.
You know what I feel like it kind of is, and this is sort of like recurring for every word I've like realized is a fake word, a fake English word dressed up in Spanish, is that I think that it was just like a loan. The word already existed. It's almost like when you go to a friend's house and you're like, oh my God, I forgot my earrings. And she's like, just take my earrings. It's fine. Just wear them. It's fine. It's like, oh, I'm not going to drive all the way home to pick up my earrings to wear them.
Yeah,
like,
claro.
You're right. It's right in front of you. I'll just wear them. And it's kind of like that. It's like, it's just, the word exists. So why not just change the spelling a little bit so you can read it and then it's yours.
Yeah, it's so hilarious.
Now, the words that are very, very like not covert are any words related to the internet, because all those words, all they did was add EAR at the end.
Yes.
Escanear, googlear, emailear.
Textear.
All of that stuff is like, yes, you are a terrible spy word. You're not even trying to look like you're Spanish. You just added an EAR and that's it. But see, that really makes sense, because the advent of those words is so new. It's so recent that like people had to get with the lingo quickly, and it already existed in English. So they were like, all right, let's just slap something on and then like welcome it, you know?
What's interesting is that when it comes to sports and the internet, it's global. So it reaches people very quickly. It's global. Everyone sees it. So everyone's kind of using the same language in that sense.
Everyone uses Gmail and watches the Olympics. So here we go. You know?
Well, Joanna, as you know, recently you blew my mind with a food item. And I'm still in disbelief. Absolute disbelief with bifte. I'm actually upset. I'm upset. I'm really mad. I'm angry.
I just can't believe you didn't like realize that bifte came from beefsteak. It like Absolutely. When I said it out loud, it felt like all your whole life flashed before your eyes.
Bro.
I was like, you know, Jenny, like bifte is Anglicism, and you were like, no, it isn't.
Yo.
And you were like, Anglicism for what? And I'm like,
beefsteak.
Beef steak. You didn't connect it, and seeing your face.
I've just never heard like a white lady at a freaking Shoney's be like, oh my God, I'm going to order the beefsteak. Like I don't know why I've never heard like.
Right.
I've never heard it said that way. So I never thought of beefsteak in my life.
Like an alien pretending to be a human would be like, oh, I'll order the beefsteak, like trying to, you know, because that's, you know, for some reason, bifte it's bizarre, but that's how I hear steak in Venezuela. Bifte. Bifte. And wait, didn't you say your grandma didn't say hamburguesa?
Okay, so like when I would watch Sábado Gigante, and there was those little kids that would show up, and they had like this vocabulary that I was like, this is really weirding me out, because I was a kid watching these kids with this perfect Spanish, and they'd be like, sí, porque anoche mi mamá me hizo una hamburguesa, and I was like, I wanted to punch them in the face. I was like, ew, kid, Who says hamburguesa?
Literally everyone.
Bro, okay, whatever. But in Miami, dude, my grandma, again, keep in mind, my grandparents, all four of them, never learned English, despite living in the US for like 5 decades. And so my abuela only said hamburgue, like Jenny quiere hamburgue, quiere sándwich. Like she never said it the Spanish way.
Jenny, you know what's ridiculous is like the amount of languages that went through, because originally that's a German word that then English people were like, I'm gonna borrow that word for this thick ass sandwich. And then Spanish speakers were like, let me take this German word that English people stole and make it Spanish. I mean, that is just a clusterfuck. That is a clusterfuck there. That is like, I don't know, level 8 Anglicism.
Well, imagínate, again, being from Miami and so many people from the Caribbean that are freaking notorious for coming up with the most unique names.
Oh, God.
My mind was also blown when I first saw In the Heights, the theatrical production. And now In the Heights coming out in theaters. The main character's name is Usnavi. And they ask him, where did that come from? And he said, well, when my dad came to the States, he saw a Navy ship. And it said U.S. Navy. And I was like, what? What is going on? Like, I felt like a robot and then someone threw water on me. I'm like, and like the same thing with Usmail, U.S. mail.
Oh my God. That's really bad.
And it gets more and more, like it just gets way more intense. Like there was one guy who I knew and his name was Frankly. But instead of it being spelled the English way with a K, it was a C. So it almost makes you want to say Fransly.
Yeah.
But it's still pronounced Frankly. And it's because this Cuban couple, when they came to the States, they had like friends, these American friends, and they kept saying the word frankly, blah, blah, blah. That's so common.
Well, that's so weird that your name, like his name has a synonym. Like Sincerely can also be his name. It's just
Sincerely. But how would you say it in Spanish? Sincerely.
Sincerely. I love when literal instructions become a word. Like this. So what I'm about to tell you is like not exactly a word, but like Venezuelans use this slang term of like échale pichón. So échale pichón means like
dirty.
It does, but I promise you it isn't. It's échale. Actually, my in-laws, every time I say hay que echarle pichón, they're like, oh my God, that sounds bad. I can like see it in my father-in-law's eyes. So I hope he listens to this podcast so that he knows that I'm not saying a dirty word. Échale pichón. So in a lot of Venezuelan towns, this is like before there was running water, they had wells, and the machine or like whatever, the temporary well or the pump that they had the instructions push on it. Like in order to get the water out, you had to push on, and that's what it says on the instructions. So échale pichón came from échale push on pichón, and it means like give it your all in something, because they had to give it their all to get water out of this well.
What the hell?
So push on became a word for like grit in Venezuela.
Mira eso.
And I know I've brought this up in another episode, but another mind-blowing thing for, there's like 17 words for the word popcorn in Latin America. We can't get, like, the UN should probably figure this out, but they haven't. But in Venezuela, we say cotufa. And that comes from the instructions on the packet that like told people to like fry it, like corn to fry became cotufa. God. It would honestly, if it's on the packaging and you're like, I guess this is corn to fry and I can't pronounce it, cotufa, and then that's it.
The rest is history.
You know what's one word that I absolutely prefer with the Spanish?
What?
So I didn't know this, that the way we say whiskey is just whisky with a G. And I just... Whisky. Pásame el whisky. And it wasn't until like later on in my life that I realized this is like a Scottish liquor. Like this is no way Venezuelan. Venezuelans actually consume, I think, per capita the most amount of whiskey in the world. That's a fun fact.
Oh.
So for me, whiskey was like synonymous to Venezuela. So for me, whiskey was like the secondary word. It was first with a G, whisky. And we sometimes say Wisconsin, like a Wisconsin. Ay, un Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's interesting because all of these anglicisms that have to do with food sound tastier than the actual English version. I mean, think about it. Hamburger. Sandwich. Sandwich. It sounds like I'm talking about a witch who lives in the sand dunes. I don't know.
Yeah, at least sanduche is like sanduche.
It took me a while to get the spelling right, actually. I remember as a kid, I would always spell sandwich without the D for the longest time. And then when someone said, no, there's a D in there, I'm like, why? Sand? ¿Qué esto?
La familia Derbez está de vuelta para la segunda temporada.
Esta es la primera vez que estamos todos juntos después de meses de no vernos por la cuarentena.
Esta vez cambiarán los aviones y las ciudades por un camper y el oeste salvaje.
¿Qué tal que sale una serpiente? Me cago.
También aprenderán a sobrevivir todos juntos a todas horas.
Papá, si me muero, ahí le hablas a mi mamá, ¿eh?
No, ni así le voy a hablar.
¡Ay, cabrón, ay, cabrón!
Descarga pantalla desde el App Store y Google Play y recibe 7 días gratis al descargar. No te olvides, es pantalla con Y.
I kind of love these words. I think they're really interesting and fun, and they just show that culture isn't something that is sort of separate from others. We're so immersed in each other's culture. And like right now in Japan has a lot of anglicisms. They use a lot of English words, and there's a lot of discussion about how that is sort of fraying at the, you know, the fabric of Japanese culture and Japanese language. And, you know, a lot of people, younger people, are like, no, we're making it our own. We're taking English words and making it our own. And some English words that they use, they've like sort of added a different spin on it. And English also has taken a bunch of words from a bunch of different places. I mean, a bon appetit, you know, they also use like lo tengo acá. Bon appetit. I love that all the words taken from French are like food related, and
I know.
And then also cliche, which is, you know, perfect. So it isn't like just an English and Spanish thing. This is like a world thing. You know what I mean? And there's no stopping it, I feel. And there's so many people saying like, oh, this is an erasure of our culture. I don't know. I think it's just how language works.
Yeah, I agree. It's ever changing. You know, like ages ago, the internet didn't exist, right? So you have to keep coming up with new words. It's just how it is.
And now that the internet exists, now we make up new words all the time. So like, I don't want to ignore the fact that there's a bunch of Spanish words that English has taken out on loan and has not returned. I want to share my word that is actually a Spanish word that English just straight up stole. What is more American than slapping on a hamburger and a hot dog on a sizzling grill and having yourself a barbecue? The word barbecue comes from the Spanish word barbacoa. And I'd love to tell some like xenophobic dude on his 4th of July barbecue telling him that Mexicans should get out of his country that the word that he's using for his grill is actually Spanish. Also, he's from Montana, which means mountain. So there you go. Well, bam.
Well, for me, which I didn't know until recently, is the word breeze.
Breeze from...
It comes from brisa.
Ooh. You know what I feel? That makes total sense. Makes total sense. Because think about the English. They have straight up like wind and like bad weather. They never have like a really nice welcomed wind, which is what a breeze is. So why would they have a word for something they've never experienced?
Because they just want to talk about the disastrous types of things.
Yeah, you don't see you. How weird does this sound? Oh, what a lovely breeze! No, they're like, oh, yeah, the wind is like it's making my umbrella fall all over the place. You know what I mean? That was my terrible British impression.
What a terrible predicament I'm in with my umbrella.
Yeah, they don't have like pleasant wind, so they just never needed breeze until Latin America was like, ay, acá la brisa es divina, mi amor.
La brisa. Yeah, I had no idea that the English folk stole it from Spanish.
There's just like so many too, like cargo and patio and like ranch and canyon and tornado and
Cockroach.
all of these things. cockroach, la cucaracha. It's, you know, I think it shows us that when your grandma said ambege, she was just part of an ever-changing etymology of language.
And speaking Hebrew, apparently.
It sounds
Without knowing
bizarre,
it.
dude. I don't know how you do that. Ambege.
I don't know. It's
You say you have a bad accent in Spanish, and it is probably the most perfect Cuban accent I've ever heard in my life.
okay, yeah, perfect for Cuban accent. That's why when I go on Spanish language auditions, I'm like, y'all are not gonna cast my Cuban ass.
I have to say that, like, it is really nice for me to have a little change because I live with a Colombian, and for Colombians, my Spanish is atrocious. It's like, ¿Cómo está?
Your Spanish.
¿Qué es eso?
Oh, man.
¿Qué es eso? They're like, ¿qué es eso? And now with you, you think my Spanish is fancy. And that's weird to me. I feel like, oh my God, I feel like a belle at the ball because my Spanish is not fancy.
Well, I know never to speak Spanish in front of your husband.
No, pues la verdad es que el acento colombiano es muy correcto, pues. ¿Qué quieres que te diga? No. So I actually have a confession, which is I used to judge people that use like weird words like llámame para atrás and voy a parquear y mi tiquete, because I'm like, oh my God, that's not real Spanish. You're not using real Spanish words. But then here I am using literally all the words we talked about today, béisbol, you know what I mean? And it's like, I can't be this hypocritical. I can't be shitting on my Dominican friend for saying the most ridiculous word I've ever heard. And then me going around saying, agárrame el jeep. Like, we all use it.
We all do
even
it.
when we don't realize it.
No, it's true. I'm sure people that tend to, hate on Anglicisms and Spanglish use it without even realizing, because there's a lot that I'm genuinely mind blown by some of these. And it's just natural. I'm very go with the flow about this shit. If tomorrow you tell me that now bananas are going to be called, I don't know, bing bongs, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll have a bing bong smoothie, I guess. Like, I'm just like, fuck it, And I think maybe it's because I grew up heavily with the internet and meme culture and E-bombs world and like online gaming and all that, where a lot of words were just invented. So I'm all about it. I'm all about made up words for that reason.
And it's so much easier now because like before, it was like the guy that made up the word dude had to wait like years for it to get to, I don't know, Florida from California. I don't know where that guy was from.
I don't know. Who knows?
But now someone just posts a funny meme and it becomes viral, and now it's a word.
And everyone, especially on TikTok and like, all these social media platforms, it just spreads like wildfire. And it's fun.
Yeah. It's like the Matrix. It's like,
yeah.
I feel like when we realize what these words, the origin of these words, it's literally like the Matrix. We take a pill and we see the reality behind it. And it's like, oh my God, this was a world I never knew existed. All right, Jenny, I need to go back to work. And also I need to, let me see if I can use some of these words. And also I need to sacar el bistec from the frigidaire and later have un whiskey. That's it. That's all I can do. That was exhausting.
And I am going to prepare my lonche and clean el garaje.
Nailed it.
Cuando tengo un chancecito.
Oh, chancecito. That's a good one. You ended on a good one.
Chance is not a Spanish word. And I'll leave you all with that. You may pick up your jaws after the end of this recording.